It was the dead of winter, January 1959, when 10 Soviet university students set off into the Ural Mountains of Russia on what was supposed to be a challenging yet routine expedition. Most were in their early 20s, experienced in mountain trekking and skiing, and all were part of the Ural Polytechnical Institute. Their leader, 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, had meticulously planned the journey. The goal was to reach Ototen, a mountain whose name in the indigenous Mansi language meant "don't go there." They went anyway. The group of 8 men and 2 women boarded a train in Sverdlovsk, buzzing with energy, unaware they were stepping into history, into legend. One of the hikers, Yuri Yudin, became ill and turned back early. He would be the only survivor. As the remaining 9 trekked deeper into the icy wilderness, they kept detailed diaries and took photos, snapshots of cheerful moments, laughter, campfires, and snow-covered trees. These fragments would later become chilling relics. The last photos, taken just days before the incident, showed them pitching their tent on the slope of a mountain called Kola-Tsyakl, Mountain of the Dead. They were never seen alive again. When they failed to return on schedule, families raised the alarm. Weeks later, a rescue team discovered the hikers' abandoned tent on February 26th. What they found made no sense. The tent had been slashed open from the inside, as if the hikers had fled in a panic. Tracks led away into the snow, barefoot prints half-clothed in sub-zero temperatures. The bodies were eventually found, some near a tree line, others buried under snow. Some had fractured skulls and crushed ribs, with injuries more in line with a car crash than exposure. One hiker was missing her tongue. No one could explain it. Not then, not now. Imagine standing there on that slope, wind howling, snow falling endlessly, and trying to piece together what could cause 9 young, experienced hikers to run into the freezing darkness, seemingly terrified, tearing through their tent with no shoes on. Why didn't they stay inside and wait for help? What did they see or hear that drove them to such madness? The mystery was born that day on the mountain, and it has haunted the world ever since. Was it an avalanche, a secret Soviet weapon test, a paranormal force, or something far more sinister? This was no ordinary hiking tragedy. This was a riddle carved into ice, frozen in time. As we explore what really happened that night, ask yourself, if you were part of that group, would you have made it out alive? When the first search teams reached the campsite at Kola-Tsyakl in late February, they immediately sensed something was terribly wrong. The Dyatlov group's tent lay eerily silent under a thick layer of snow. It had been torn open from the inside. Whatever happened in that tent, it happened fast, and it happened in fear. The investigators noted the tent's layout, the belongings still neatly arranged, the hikers' boots and warm clothing left behind. Why would experienced trekkers abandon all protection against the biting cold of the Siberian night? As they followed the trail of footprints, barefoot, some only in socks, others with a single shoe, they found the first 2 bodies under a cedar tree nearly a mile from the tent. Yuri Krivonishenko and Georgy Doroshenko lay side by side. In only their underwear, their hands burned and blistered. Nearby branches were broken high above, suggesting the men had climbed the tree, perhaps in terror or desperation. 3 more bodies were found between the tree and the tent: Igor Dyatlov, Zenaida Kolmogorova, and Rustem Slobodin, spaced apart as if they had tried to return but collapsed from hypothermia. Slobodin had a fractured skull, yet no external trauma. The rest, Alexander Kolovatov, Semyon Zolotaryov, Lyudmila Dubanina, and Nikolai Thibault Brignol were not found until 2 months later, buried under snow in a ravine. And it was their condition that escalated the mystery into something almost unspeakable. Thibault Brignol's skull was crushed. Zolotaryov had broken ribs and missing eyes. Dubanina was missing her tongue. Her injuries were so severe they were compared to the trauma of a car crash, but with no external wounds, no blood, no defensive marks, as if something immense had crushed them without leaving a trace. This wasn't simply a case of hypothermia or exposure. It was something else, something violent, something unnatural, and the autopsy reports only deepened the confusion. Radiation was found on some of the hikers' clothes. Their skin had turned an unnatural orange hue, and their hair gray and brittle. Rumors of military tests, UFO encounters, and supernatural forces spread like wildfire. What could possibly explain the combination of terror, physical trauma, and eerie circumstances? Avalanche was suggested, but ruled out by terrain and expert opinion. A fight among hikers? No defensive wounds. Military testing. There were no signs of explosives, yet the damage was massive. And perhaps most chilling, despite the gruesome scene, the Soviet government sealed the files, labeled them top secret, and quickly closed the case, blaming an unknown compelling force. If you're fascinated by true mysteries like this one, and want to explore even darker, deeper unsolved cases, subscribe to this channel now. There's so much more that lies beneath the surface of stories like this, and we're just getting started. But back to the Dyatlov group. Their families were told little. The world heard even less. What were they trying to hide? Why did the Soviet Union bury the truth, and what did they fear people might find out? In the years since, hikers, scientists, and theorists have returned to that mountain, hoping to uncover answers buried in the snow. But the deeper they dig, the stranger the story becomes. Next, we'll explore the many theories, from avalanches to infrasound, from secret weapons to alien contact. And you'll decide which one fits, or if the truth is still lost in the cold. In the years following the Dyatlov tragedy, speculation spread like wildfire. The brutality of the scene, the secrecy surrounding the investigation, and the bizarre injuries of the hikers, none of it made sense. With official explanations scarce and inconsistent, people began to build their own narratives. Some were grounded in science, others ventured into the surreal. The most common theory? An avalanche. On the surface, it seemed plausible. The hikers fled their tent in panic. Maybe they thought snow was about to collapse onto them. But critics pointed out that the slope was too shallow for a major slide. The tent remained partially standing, and none of the surrounding trees were disturbed. If an avalanche occurred, why was there no sign of it? Then came the theory of infrasound, a natural phenomenon where wind patterns around the mountain might have produced low-frequency vibrations, affecting the hikers' minds. Could it have caused hallucinations, irrational panic, even physical illness? Some researchers believe this explains the sudden flight from the tent and the chaotic final moments. But infrasound remains a highly debated and unproven trigger for such extreme behavior. Next, attention turned to military activity. Reports emerged of parachute mines being tested in the area, explosives that detonate above ground and create intense shockwaves. Could the hikers have wandered into a restricted zone? The internal injuries found on several victims, massive trauma without external wounds, could match the effects of such blasts. And then there's the radiation. Was it from military-grade material? If so, why were civilians even near such danger? Eyewitnesses from nearby villages reported strange lights in the sky on the night of the incident. Some described glowing orbs, silent, hovering, moving with unnatural precision. This fed into the UFO theory. Could the hikers have encountered something beyond explanation? The missing tongue, the burned hands, the orange skin, were they the result of a close encounter? There's also the unsettling idea of a government cover-up. The Soviet Union, known for secrecy and control, quickly shut down the investigation. Files were sealed. Witnesses were silenced. Journalists were warned. What could have been so damaging to national interest that it warranted erasing the truth? Some claim the hikers were mistakenly identified as spies, or that they witnessed something they weren't supposed to see. Perhaps they stumbled upon a covert military experiment, or were used in one. In either case, their deaths would need to be explained away, buried, forgotten. And then there's the paranormal theory that something not of this world or this dimension was responsible. Local Mansi legends speak of cursed lands, spirits that roam the mountains. Could the hikers have disturbed something ancient, something that defended its territory? Each theory has its defenders and its holes. None fully explain the combination of injuries, behavior, and forensic evidence. And that's what makes the Dyatlov Pass case so uniquely terrifying. There is no satisfying answer. But here's the question for you. Which theory do you believe? Was it a tragic accident, a military secret gone wrong, a visitor from the sky, or something even stranger? Drop your thoughts in the comments. The more theories, the better. Let's unravel this together. Because if we don't ask these questions, if we don't keep digging, the truth may remain buried in the snow forever. Coming up next in the final chapter, the strange aftermath. How survivors, families, and even modern-day researchers continue to chase answers. And why the Dyatlov Pass mystery still refuses to die. In the decades following the Dyatlov incident, the snow-covered slopes of the Ural Mountains have remained eerily silent. The wind still howls through the trees, the snow still bears secrets, but the mystery that refuses to fade. What happened on that fateful February night in 1959 continues to grip the imagination of investigators, conspiracy theorists, and curious minds around the world. For the families of the 9 lost hikers, closure never came. Their children, siblings, and friends were returned in coffins with sealed lids. Officials offered only vague answers: hypothermia, accidents, misadventure. Yet the truth, whatever it may be, was clearly too complex, too sensitive, or perhaps too disturbing to be spoken aloud. In the years after, those who dared ask questions often faced subtle threats or outright stonewalling. Journalists were denied access. Records disappeared. Witnesses vanished. Even the exact location of the tent remained obscured for decades. It was as if someone or something wanted the Dyatlov mystery buried deeper than the coldest grave. Still, the case refused to die. With the fall of the Soviet Union came new freedom. A handful of determined researchers, journalists, and amateur sleuths reopened the case. They scoured old files, conducted expeditions, interviewed remaining witnesses. What they found was startling. Contradictory autopsy reports, inconsistencies in timelines, suppressed photographs, and unexplained gaps in military flight paths. In 2019, 60 years later, Russia officially reopened the investigation. But the conclusion? Once again, the government stated it was a natural phenomenon, an avalanche, a tragic accident. The same explanation many had long rejected. Was this a genuine attempt at transparency, or yet another act in a decades-long cover-up. In popular culture, Dyatlov's legacy grew. Books, documentaries, podcasts, and films kept the story alive. Each retelling offered new angles, new theories, but no answers. To this day, the case remains one of the most chilling, unresolved incidents of the 20th century. But perhaps that's what makes it so powerful. The Dyatlov Pass mystery isn't just about 9 lives lost. It's about how far we'll go to seek truth, about our obsession with the unknown, our fear of what lies just beyond reason. Whether the culprit was nature, man, or something otherworldly, what truly terrifies us is the absence of logic. The feeling that something happened here that defies understanding and may never be solved. And that raises one final question for you. If you were there, if you stood in that silent, frozen wilderness, alone in the dead of night, what do you think you'd see? Would you hear the distant crunch of footsteps? Feel the air thicken with something unseen? Would you run like they did? Or would you stand and face the darkness? Let us know in the comments. What's your theory? What detail keeps you up at night? Your voice might be the one that finally connects the dots. Because while the bodies have long since been buried, the story is not. The Dyatlov Pass still whispers its secrets to those who dare to listen, to those who ask the hard questions. And maybe, just maybe, it's waiting for someone like you to finally uncover the truth. Thank you for watching. If this mystery chilled you to the bone, subscribe for more real, unsolved cases, deep dives, and hidden stories that deserve the spotlight. Until next time, stay curious, stay questioning, and don't forget, sometimes the scariest answers are the ones we're not meant to find.